You know, everyone seems to have an opinion at the moment on how to deal with China. Everyone seems to have the answer, especially those who profess to have excellent Chinese contacts. Now, as someone who's worked in Beijing for 2 years as a local resident, went there as a television reporter to report on the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989, and has visited the country on many other occasions, I know one thing. The way to break through the walls of Chinese government secrecy, to read their hidden agendas, to appreciate their devotion to the CCP, and to cater for their determination not to lose face is close to impossible. It's a culture of immense pride and regulation, which makes their political class extremely stubborn and immensely loyal to their superiors. But we've had the likes of former Labor politicians Kevin Rudd, Paul Keating and Bob Carr very eager to criticise firstly the Morrison government for not being able to even have a phone call with a Chinese official, and they're now giving their learned tips to the Albanese government. Today, the former New South Wales Premier and Foreign Affairs Minister, Bob Carr, shared his greater wisdom on China in the Herald. And I couldn't disagree with what he had to say more. He was shocked that ministers would dare to suggest that there may be a war in our region. He said Peter Dutton, Defence Minister in the Morrison government, even implied war was coming. Is he totally delusional? China is now acquiring high-end military weapons and equipment at 6 times faster the rate than the United States. The US needs to grow its military because it's usually recruited to be the world's international police force. But China hasn't been in a major war for more than 70 years, but they're growing at 6 times the rate. As I said on my show here last night, they have a nuclear hypersonic missile ready to go that can hit a target anywhere on the planet in just 1 hour. Bob, get real. They are not building the world's most unstoppable force for fun. He said, stabilising the relationship is the goal, perhaps to the point at which China would pull back from its specific adventurism. Adventurism, he calls it. No, Bob, adventurism is when you go for a bushwalk. Where has he been since he left Parliament? He also wants Trade Minister Don Farrell, listen to this, to visit Shanghai to talk to his opposite there about lifting our export barriers, and then hand the Commerce Minister a letter from Anthony Albanese. Farrell was in Geneva last month in the company of the Chinese Commerce Minister, and even being that close, he couldn't get a face-to-face meeting. Good idea, Bob, good idea. And the letter from the principal? Schmick. He also seems to think that the media is to blame. He wrote, a journalist asked our Prime Minister his response to Chinese demands. The next headline had Albanese rebuffing the Chinese. Neither country used the language. No, Bob, Albo was actually more aggressive than those meek descriptions. This is how Albo reacted.
Look, Australia doesn't respond to demands. We respond to our own national interest. I'll say this, we will cooperate with China where we can. I want to build good relations with all countries, but we will stand up for Australia's interests when we must.
Sorry, Bob, that is a rebuff, probably on steroids. And Bob Carr also wants us to cave in on our strong support for Taiwan. He says, Taiwan is not Ukraine. The West acknowledges China's claim that Taiwan is a province of China, not an independent country. Ukraine, by contrast, is recognised as a sovereign state. That is just linguistic rubbish. The world cannot allow an authoritarian nation to invade any state by force. The mere fact that China believes they may need to use force, and will if they need to, explains why it is so incredibly wrong. China has no legal or constitutional right to Taiwan either, no matter what it says. And if they're allowed to invade without any pushback, which is what I think Bob wants to see, what continent in our region will be next? And will it be Australia, or do we wait in line? Who really knows? How about Bob Carr, Kevin Rudd and Paul Keating stop lecturing us on how to re-establish this Chinese relationship and get off their bums, travel to China, use their fabulous contacts and help us directly with Beijing. Now, if their egos are too big for one aeroplane, we can give them one each, no problem. As long as they only have one-way tickets, of course. I've got some better advice. It's simpler. Getting back with China does not guarantee Australia a single thing. They will just flick us off when they find another stupid reason to do so. We need to find new trade markets and new diplomatic partners and leave the Western superpowers to deal with China themselves.